What would you do if you found £10,000? Think about it. Really think about it. £10,000 in cash, more money than you've seen in years. Nobody knows you have it. Nobody saw you find it. Nobody would ever know if you kept it. What would you do? Before you answer, let me tell you about Michael Hayes, 62 years old, sleeping rough in London for 3 years, and the decision that changed everything. Most people walk past homeless people without looking. It's easier that way. Pretend you didn't see them. Pretend they're invisible. That's what happened to Michael every single day. Thousands of people passed him on their way to work. And not one of them saw him. Not really. They saw a sleeping bag in a doorway. They saw an old coat and a cardboard sign. But they didn't see Michael Hayes. They didn't see the man who used to be a carpenter, who had a wife and a daughter and a little house in Croydon, whose wife died of cancer, whose grief turned into depression, whose depression cost him his job, then his home, then everything. They just saw a homeless man. And they kept walking. Michael's spot was outside Waterloo Station, a doorway next to a closed-down shop. It kept most of the rain off. The police didn't bother him much. This was his routine. Wake up at 6 before the morning rush. Roll up his sleeping bag, sit with his back against the wall, watch the city wake up around him. Thousands of people, millions of pounds walking past him every day. Designer shoes, expensive bags, coffee that cost more than his daily food budget. And Michael, sitting there with his cardboard sign, hungry, please help. God bless. Most people didn't even read it. Some dropped coins without stopping, a few pounds on a good day. That was life, 3 years of it. It was a Wednesday morning in November. Cold. Michael had been awake since 5. Too cold to sleep. He sat in his usual spot, watching the commuters flood out of the station. Then he saw it. A black leather briefcase, just sitting there, leaning against the wall about 10 feet away. Michael thought someone was coming back for it. So he waited. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. The briefcase didn't move. Nobody came back. Michael looked around. Nobody was watching. He walked over, picked it up. It was expensive, real leather, heavy. He opened it slightly, just a crack. And his heart stopped. Money, stacks of it, neat bundles of £50 notes. More money than Michael had seen in his entire life. His hands started shaking. He could walk away right now, disappear into the city. Enough to get off the streets, get a room. Hot meals, a real bed, everything he'd been dreaming about for 3 years. And nobody would ever know. Michael stood there, the briefcase heavy in his hand, his mind racing. 3 years on the streets teaches you that nobody cares. Nobody helps. You're invisible. So why not take it? Who would blame him? But then Michael thought about the person who lost this. Maybe they're panicking right now. Maybe they need it just as badly. And Michael realized something. Being homeless had taken everything from him. His home, his dignity. But it hadn't taken who he was. And who he was, underneath all the pain, was a decent man. A man who did the right thing, even when the right thing was hard. Michael walked into Waterloo Station. There's a police point inside. 2 officers standing there. Excuse me, officers. I found this outside. The officers looked at him, saw the old coat, the sleeping bag, saw a homeless man. One of them, a young officer, frowned. You found this? Yeah, just now. Outside. The officer took the briefcase, opened it. His eyes went wide. This is full of money. I know. And you're turning it in? Michael nodded. It's not mine. The officers looked at each other, like they couldn't believe it. What's your name, sir? Michael Hayes. And you're homeless? 3 years. Look, I know what you're thinking, but it's not my money. Someone lost it. I just wanted to make sure they got it back. The older officer stepped forward. He had a different look in his eyes. Respect. Mr. Hayes, do you understand how much money is in here? Michael shrugged. 10,000. Maybe more? £12,300. Exactly. That's enough to change your life. I know, but you're still turning it in, because it's not mine. And whoever lost it, they're probably going through hell right now. I know what it's like to lose everything. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. The older officer extended his hand. Michael Hayes, you're a better man than most. Michael shook his hand, his eyes getting wet, because it had been 3 years since anyone had shaken his hand. 3 years since anyone had treated him like a human being. I'm just doing what's right. The officer smiled. That's more than most people do. Come on, let's get your details. And when the owner claims this, they might want to thank you properly. Michael spent an hour at the police station. The police were professional, polite even, offered him tea. When he was done, the officer told him they'd already had someone call. A businessman had a panic attack on the train when he realized. He's on his way back now. Michael nodded, walked back to his doorway, back to his sleeping bag, back to being invisible. 2 days passed. Michael tried not to think about the money. It was hard, though, knowing that for one moment he'd held the solution to all his problems. And he'd given it back. Some would call that stupid, but Michael slept better those 2 nights than he had in months, because he knew he'd done the right thing. On Friday morning, someone stopped in front of him. A man, mid-40s, expensive suit, holding the briefcase. Are you Michael Hayes? Yeah. That's me. The man sat down, right there on the pavement, in his expensive suit. I'm David Chen. I'm the one who lost the briefcase. You're the one who found it. Michael nodded. Yeah. I hope you got it back all right. David Chen's eyes were red. Mr. Hayes, that money was everything. My business is struggling. I was taking that cash to pay my suppliers. If I didn't pay them, I'd lose everything. I put the briefcase down for 1 second to answer my phone, and I walked away. I thought it was gone. I thought someone would have taken it. Anyone would have taken it. Michael listened quietly. I'm glad you got it back. David shook his head. The police told me you're homeless. 3 years on the streets. You could have kept that money. Nobody would have known. Michael shrugged. It wasn't mine to keep. David's voice broke. You had nothing, and you gave back everything. Most people with comfortable lives wouldn't have done that. Why? Michael thought for a moment. My wife used to say, the measure of a man isn't what he does when people are watching. It's what he does when nobody would ever know. When I found that briefcase, nobody was watching. But I would have known. I would have had to live with that. I've lost a lot. My home, my dignity sometimes, but I haven't lost who I am. And I'm not going to. Not for any amount of money. David wiped his eyes. Mr. Hayes, I want to help you, please. Let me do something. You saved my life. You saved everything. David Chen owned a small construction company. He needed someone with carpentry skills. Michael tried to explain. He'd been out of work for 3 years. His hands weren't steady. He didn't have tools, didn't have proper clothes. David listened, then said something Michael never forgot. I don't need perfect hands. I need honest hands. Someone I can trust. Someone who does the right thing when nobody's watching. That's rarer than any skill. So here's what I'm offering. A job, a real job, and I'll help you get sorted. A room. Get your documents. Whatever you need. Because you saved me, and I'm going to return the favor. Not because you asked, but because it's the right thing to do. That was 8 months ago. Today, Michael Hayes has a flat in Lewisham. Small. 1 bedroom, but it's his. He has a job. Workshop manager at Chen Construction. Clean clothes, hot meals, a bed. But more than that, he has his dignity back. And David didn't just give him a job. He became a friend. They have lunch together every week. David tells people about Michael all the time. About the homeless man who returned £12,000. About the decision that changed both their lives, and Michael goes back to Waterloo Station sometimes, sees the people sleeping rough, the invisible ones, and he stops, every time, gives them money, food, sometimes just conversation, because he knows what it's like to be invisible, and he knows that one moment of doing the right thing can change everything. So let me ask you again, what would you do if you found £10,000? Before you answer, think about Michael Hayes, a man who had nothing, who could have had everything, who chose to do the right thing instead. Not for a reward, not for recognition, but because that's who he is. Being homeless didn't make him a different person. It just made him invisible to everyone else, but not to himself. He still saw who he was, and he held on to it. That's what real character looks like. That's what real heroism looks like. Not capes and superpowers, just one man, one decision, one moment of choosing right over easy, and two lives changed forever. This is Valor Chronicles, where we share stories of everyday people doing extraordinary things. If Michael's story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you that good people still exist, hit that subscribe button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And leave a comment. Tell us about a time someone showed you unexpected kindness, or a time you did the right thing when it was hard. Because these stories matter, and the more we share them, the more we remember that the world is full of people like Michael Hayes, people who choose kindness, people who choose integrity, people who prove that being a good person isn't about what you have, it's about who you are. Thanks for listening, and remember, you never know who you're walking past. You never know whose life you could change. See you in the next story.